I think they have to prioritize leaning into how they work and leveraging AI in any way possible, because it only takes a day or two to get behind the curve. So I think you got to stay ahead of that curve and figure out how you're going to use it to make you and your teams better versus letting someone else figure that out and then you aren't needed anymore.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. Make sure to subscribe now so you don't miss any episodes and any of the insights that come from it. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial tech entrepreneur, Amazon bestselling author of the book Fail Hard, Win Big, and CEO of Sonatafy Technology, a premier software delivery partner. Today, I am joined by Wendy Dole, who is an engineer turned executive, known as a proactive technology leader, and is currently the director of engineering at Direct Supply. We're going to have some fun here. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You bet. Wendy, give us a brief overview of your company, Direct Supply, if you would.
So Direct Supply is in the senior living industry, and we are an applied AI company. So we started off 40 or so years ago in the supply, furnishings, and equipment space for senior living, and realized at some point that we could do a lot more in that space by applying technology to help solve the problems instead of just giving them the supplies and equipment they needed. And so we have been evolving over the past 40 years toward that. And these past few years have seen a drastic increase in our involvement with all the changes in AI.
So with your industry being in the senior living space, but also part of the healthcare ecosystem, challenges that are faced in the industry are largely around workforce shortages and cost pressures and rising regulatory complexity. How do those factors shape your role as director of engineering and how you go about solving those challenges?
Well, those are constantly changing. And one thing Direct Supply is really good at is advocating for our customers. So we have a PAC and an arm that is in Washington and making sure that our leaders understand the challenges, our leaders of the country understand the challenges, and we're advocating for the right laws at the right times to help the industry. Labor, like everywhere else, is one of the huge problems. And so we are trying to tackle that head on. We have a couple of products that are in that space, and we're trying to come up with more and more. We have a product called DS Smart that helps gather vitals and record those in their EMR systems. We are also leveraging robotics, and we are continuing to expand in that space. And then one of our other lines of business is in spend management. So one of the other big costs that we have in senior living, besides labor, is food. You have to feed all of these residents. And so we are very good in spend management and our technology around that. And we have a product called DS Menu that is especially helpful with that just came out last year. And so there are lots of opportunities, and we're just starting to scratch the surface. We also have building management systems that really starts talking to the regulatory part of the problem. And so we try to tackle each individual area, and there is so much opportunity here. One of the things we were talking about in our company is how every day there are 10,000 seniors who are turning 80. And 83 is like the key time when people go into senior living. Census counts are starting to get higher, which helps alleviate some of the pressure from the fact that they can actually start making some more money if the beds are filled. However, and you have the alternate problem of, do you have enough labor to take care of everyone in these nursing homes? We're trying to tackle all parts of the problem, but we're just getting started.
That's an interesting stat that 83 is the average age consensus-wise when people are moving in to senior living facilities. 10 years ago, do you have any idea what that number was? I'm assuming it was a younger number than 83.
I do not know what the number was, but the fact that we have 10,000 seniors every day turning 80.
That's crazy.
And that's going to last for another 15 years. We're just at the start of the baby boomers getting to the age of going into senior living. And we call it the silver tsunami that's hitting. So Some pressures will become even greater because there will be a severe lack of housing because there are not enough beds and rooms for all of these seniors who might need it. So we're going to have to figure out alternate ways to help take care of these seniors. And then some other pressures will be alleviated in that when you have, like you said, your census is higher, your beds are filled, you're able to take away some of the economic pressures.
So lots of challenges to tackle, to say the least.
Constantly.
Now,
And every new regulation that comes out of Washington creates a new problem to tackle. There's never a shortage.
now you have been with your company now for almost 4 years, correct?
Just coming up on 4 years.
And you have an amazing background. I understand why they hired you. What I'm curious, and our listeners always like to hear, is how did you land the role? Engineering leaders can often be targeted and blamed for stuff out of their control. And many talented engineering leaders are often looking for new roles. And last time I checked, it's not as easy as applying on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't. The Milwaukee ecosystem for technology is a little smaller than some other cities. So you kind of know a lot of people and they reached out to me. And I think one of the reasons that I was able to land this job is because I have a unique balance. At one of my previous companies, I had a really great COO who really helped me develop my leadership skills. The technology part is the easy part. Let's face it, it's easier to learn technology than it is to learn leadership skills and those competencies that go along with being a great leader.
I would
And
agree.
I had someone who worked with me for 3 or 4 years at one of my other companies and really opened my eyes to, how to truly lead people instead of being a command and control type of leader, but influencing and growing and leading people in a new way. So I think Direct Supply was looking to bring in talent that had that. A lot of the engineering leaders at Direct Supply had grown up through engineering, and bringing in some of that outside to expand people's competencies beyond just the engineering competencies, I think is one of the things that helped me land the job.
Now, are you guys in the office 5 days a week? Are you guys hybrid? Are you remote?
We're hybrid, although we have quite a few remote people. During COVID, we hired more remote people. And then we do have an office in North Carolina that just has some engineering folks in it. So we're definitely hybrid. That would include, there's almost no team, at least in my area, where every member is here 100% of the time. So they either have one team member that's remote or potentially one team member that's in North Carolina or something along those lines.
Gotcha. Women in engineering is a rare thing, a male dominated field. And I know you're part of the Women in Technology Wisconsin organization. Talk about how, as a female in a male dominated space, you've been able to continue to rise, and what challenges have you had along the way?
So it's been really interesting. So when I was in college, there was two of us, two females in the major. I went to UW Whitewater. Um, and I didn't really think much of it at the time because they ran out of male RAs. I was an RA at school. And so I was an RA on a men's floor. So I was just in that atmosphere of just being surrounded by males. So I didn't notice it much. Then I went into healthcare. So I went and worked for Aurora Healthcare here in Milwaukee. And healthcare is dominated by females. So even in their technology department, there was more females, even if they weren't necessarily engineers, but between BAs and product managers and systems analysts, there were more females, I think, than in most places. So again, I didn't really notice it. It wasn't
Okay.
until my second or third job where, we're hiring candidates and it's like, wow, everyone who's applying is male. We maybe get 2 candidates out of 100 who are female. And it's like, I started talking to some friends' kids who were going to school and they're like, yeah, there's still only 2 or 3 women in the major. And it's like, how has this not changed in all of these years? And so it's been really interesting. And I've done some introspection on some of that. And I think part of it is just an uncomfortableness of being in that atmosphere. And I've heard that in Silicon Valley, it can be pretty toxic. I don't believe it's toxic in Milwaukee and in our space, but it is still dominated by men. And so making women more comfortable in there and building up other women, making sure that they know that there's room for them, that you're making room from them versus feeling like there's only room for one or two women. So if it's got to be me or them and stop thinking of it that way, I think has been kind of where I've landed after some of the introspection on that.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Very interesting. So let's talk about the senior living industry. It's not traditionally viewed as a tech first industry. Where do you see the biggest digital transformation gaps, and how's engineering focused on closing those?
I think there are lots of opportunities. I think one of the big problems is having the money to spend on technology. So our job is to make sure we're showing the ROI that you're actually wasting money if you don't buy our products, because our products are going to save you that much money or time. And we do that for the most part in the building services space and in the spend management space. So we have a couple of applications that have come out just recently that have just been hugely successful and really helpful in both those areas. One is housekeeping, being able to schedule housekeepers, being able to hook in all the data we have with what rooms are emptying, where the house cleaners need to go at what times, being able to move people around, mark when something's cleaned. That has been really helpful from a labor perspective and actually getting things done in the building, along with our whole platform. But that is just a new piece that's come out. The other thing is DS menu. There's a lot of regulation around what you feed and how you feed residents in senior living. And there's a lot of extra burden that's there because there's a lot of dietary restrictions there, from a medical perspective, there's a lot of that problem. And then you have the problems of the external pressures of food. Like when we had the egg shortage, like, well, what do you do that doesn't have eggs in it? How do you figure out the new menu that's still interesting and still makes people want to come and live in our facility? And so our ability to leverage AI and to create a product that helps them with that problem has been tremendous. I know one anecdotal fact that came out of it was someone said, I had enough money left over that I was able to throw an ice cream party, which I've never been able to do before for the residents. And they just were overjoyed at that. So it's little things like that. The problem is they don't have a lot of money. So we got to convince them and show them that you're actually going to save money by buying our products.
No, and that's an important take of, recognizing the industry is not overly spending and how you have to focus around the ROI. That's an important fact there. Let's talk hype versus reality. AI is, depending on who you talk to, all over the place. What are some of the biggest technology shifts in your space right now, and what's overhyped?
I think it's a combination of being overhyped, but an overhyping that we have to lean into, and that's how much time AI can save you as an engineer. And
Okay.
so
Expand on
we're
that.
working through that right now. And one of the biggest problems we have in my areas are legacy systems. We have, some very old legacy code, stuff that's been around for 20, 25 years. We have some VB6 still. And so how do we still harness all that AI can provide with how we create new products and still be able to work in our legacy systems, because everything's interconnected? We are struggling through that, but I have found that when you spend too much time using legacy as an excuse and not enough time leaning into the hyperbole that may be out there about how much time it's going to spend, you're never going to really figure out what it will.
You can just get an analysis paralysis there at that
Right.
point.
So we just got to lean in and say, whatever, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this. We're going to figure out a way and we're going to cause a problem. And then we're going to solve that problem. Then we're going to get to the next problem. For example, you start getting your engineers, you've democratized maybe your legacy system so you don't have to have so much domain knowledge. You can work in there. You can churn out more code. Now you got a code review problem. You don't have enough people to do the code reviews in a reasonable amount of time. So that's great. So now we have to solve the code review problem. You get that done. Then you have a testing problem because all your old stuff doesn't have, all these automated tests necessarily. And there's so much interconnectedness. How do you test all that? So I think we just have to keep going one problem at a time. Let's solve one problem. We'll create a new bottleneck. We'll create another hurdle that we have to jump over, and then we'll solve that one. But we got to lean into it versus saying, no, it's not quite ready yet, or no, we can't harness it because of our legacy code or whatever. We just have to forget about those things. And we're not going to be 100% successful, but even if we're 10% better than we were before, that's 10%. That's great.
No doubt. So how does your company and your industry make decisions around modernizing these legacy systems and tech debt? Like, how do you balance that out with that and new features and new products?
So we have tried to minimize how much that we are spending on our tech debt and focusing on the new value-added systems that we can produce. So for us, I work mostly on the product side, which means that it's mostly systems that are used internally. So how do we make our cost per order the most efficient as it can possibly be? How do I reduce our costs, increase our margin, make us more money in that area? We do try to focus on that. And I will say I have gone all over the board with my thoughts on whether you should build or buy or how much you should put into legacy and how much you should put into tech debt. And it used to be like we should just be buying something and going there. We don't need to worry about tech debt. We just have to get a new application. But that was usually like a 5-year installation then if you're talking about an ERP. And then it started to look like, well, you can have Claude write new Claude features. Why can't you have Claude code just write you a new ERP? Like, well, you probably don't want to do there, but there's probably something in the middle. Spending more time on tech debt, if AI can help you get it done in half the amount of time, that might be worth it while you delay the cost of getting an ERP. So I've gone all over the place. Right now,
It's hard to know. There's no one answer here.
Right. So right now I'm at the spot where, yes, I think we need to tackle some of our challenges, but we need to use AI to help us tackle those challenges so that it doesn't take us 6 weeks, it takes us 6 hours.
What's the path to get there?
I think our biggest thing has been just being able to inspect we have 500 or 600 repositories in my team alone. And being able to inspect those, understand their interdependencies, and then try to leverage agents to help with that code as we're cleaning it up. And we are just starting on that journey as far as we finally have a system in place, I think, that can handle indexing and looking at the code we have so that we can ask it intelligent questions and it can give us an intelligent answer. And so right now, it's just a matter of leaning into it. And It's amazing sometimes what these tools can do. I mean, I'm just constantly impressed by what Claude can do, what Codex can do, what Cursor can do. 2 weeks, I'll be even more impressed.
Yes. And then somebody else will come out with a new feature of doing something and you'll jump to that. That's kind of how it is, right?
Yes.
So in your industry, you're balancing regulatory demands, cost pressures, digital transformation. How do you measure the health of your backlog?
That has been one of those struggles also because we're trying to make the business move fast. And so, like I said, the coders are able to go faster as engineers can move faster. Then we have a code review problem. Then we have a testing problem. We have the same problem on the front end. As we go faster and faster, our product managers have to try to keep up with us. And so that's actually a problem we're just starting to have now. And luckily, in our company, we have buy-in from the very top. Our executives are bought in that, yes, we have to work differently. We have to move fast. This is our time to harness what we're able to do in this industry. And so we're trying to figure out that problem right now. How do we help our product managers move faster, make smarter decisions faster, and then help them with the change control process on the back end and get our users to adopt what we've done?
It is crazy, when non-technical people talk about AI and how it's going to replace engineers. Taking a step back, I would argue to death it's not. It's just going to evolve it. But what AI are you talking about? As you just said, you have AI in the development process that's helping, that's seeing productivity, but you still have testing. You still have, CI/CD and continuous optimization. And then, all the way over on the product and idea side and creating functional designs and stories. There's so many different places where different types of AI need to be integrated, and getting each one to keep up is definitely a challenge.
Yeah. And I think all the engineers are going to have to raise the level of their thinking. It's really going to be a lot of systems thinking. You're going to be the coordinator of all this AI and setting the guardrails on what it's allowed to do, what it's not allowed to do, where it needs human oversight, what the thresholds are for what's right, what's wrong. So there's probably going to be less hands on a keyboard just pounding out code. There's probably going to be, I don't know when that's going to be, if it's going to be next year or 5 years from now, where you probably won't be writing any code, but you're going to be thinking from a system level and be the coordinator of all this. So yeah, engineers are not going to be obsolete anytime soon, but definitely how they work and what they work on that's changing already,
No doubt.
and it's not going to stop.
No doubt. Specific to the healthcare industry, what are the biggest engineering challenges keeping people in the industry up at night, whether it's regulatory or tech debt or talent constraints, AI integration? What's your opinion on the healthcare industry and the biggest factors there?
I think talent constraints are real, like figuring out people who are willing to lean in to the whole everything that goes along with being an AI native engineer. That is going to be harder and harder to find that talent where they also have some industry experience. So because that industry experience and understanding what is good, what is bad that AI is producing is going to be more and more important. So, and then with our current engineers, I think there's two things. One, it's keeping up with the changes while you're still creating new features and new functionality and new products for the industry. I mean, things change every day, so it's very hard to keep up with it. But keeping up with it, and then, a little bit of the existential crisis that's probably going on in most engineers' heads. Am I headed the way of the dinosaurs? And am I going to be obsolete? And when is that going to happen? And that can either put you in a place where you are fighting off change and resisting it, which is not going to help you survive any longer, or you can lean into it and treat that as a positive stressor and figure out how to make it work for you. And I'm hoping that I'm helping the engineers in my area try to lean into it more than
Well,
resist it.
I'll be more blunt. Those who don't lean into it won't have a job in a year or two
Exactly.
or three. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. That's the way it is.
Exactly. So I think those are getting people over those humps are like the big things right now.
So when you think of how non-technical people talk about AI and what it could do, us technical people know that to do great things with AI, your data and your data governance and the quality needs to be pristine so that AI can make the best of what it's good at. Healthcare industry, you got a lot of fragmented data. What is your take on from a data approach in the healthcare industry and what people need to do?
Yeah, in the healthcare industry in general, especially with patient data, that is a very interesting problem. Now, we are mostly in the business space, not in the patient care space, other than feeding them, helping to collect vitals, but those aren't our systems. EMRs aren't our systems. So our data is more around the analytics that go into how you run your business, procurement services, building services. And we have a lot of that data because we've had systems out there for a long time. So we have entire teams who work on trying to make sure that we have the right data products available at the right fidelity level with the right guardrails in place to make sure that that is good, solid data. And we are leaning into that a lot because I agree, data is king. If you don't have data, I mean, AI can't tell you anything. The data part has been very important. We've been working on that for probably 3 years now, really making sure that we have the right data products available as we have new AI needs, and then keeping that data clean and available in the right way to the right people. And again, because there is some level of patient data, with the right guardrails in place so that we're compliant with all the regulatory things out there.
It's a huge job, to say the least.
It is. And I don't envy our security people, because I don't think we even scratched the surface of how AI will be used against all of us by the wrong people. And so I do not envy our security people, where we're trying to charge forward at lightning speed and they're trying to say, but we're setting ourselves up for a giant mess. And, where do we fall? Like, how do we find that nice middle ground?
It's going to take some big companies getting hurt very badly for most to wake up, is what I predict.
Yes. And yeah, I just don't even think we're prepared for that part. We are trying to be very smart about it. We are trying to be conscious of security at all times, but it's tough when you don't know what you don't know.
Yep, I'm with you. So, Wendy, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what do you believe will fundamentally change about technology in the senior living and healthcare adjacent industries?
That is a very interesting question.
It's my job as host to have a couple interesting
Well,
questions.
good job. Excellent. I think one of the things that we haven't really solved yet, and that I think we will find solutions for, is how we take care of all these seniors when we don't have enough senior housing. So that means people are going to have to stay in their homes longer, or during times when they normally wouldn't, because there just isn't enough beds and rooms out there. So how do we take care of people in their homes differently? I think it's still a long ways off, but I would love to see how robotics could help with that. Someone who, half the reason you're not in your home is because you need someone to watch you or to help you get
Yeah.
up or move around. Like, what if a robot could do that? That's still a pipe dream with how the robots behave and how much they cost, but we have to do something. So I'm excited about what we'll come up with, but I don't know what it'll look like yet.
That's it's a very interesting thought. And yeah, unless, Elon Musk has something he hasn't shown the world, I don't think at least anything I've been exposed to around robots is close to there yet, but things are
Right.
moving quick.
Right. And I mean, I think about it with my own parents. It's like, well, they live many states away. And if you can't hire a caregiver to be there all the time, could I afford a $20,000 robot for them? Maybe, like, if it got to that. But I think we're a ways away from even the $20,000 robot.
I still get surprised, but in Arizona, around the Phoenix area, Waymo is very big with their driverless cars.
I've
There's
ridden in one. I loved it.
many markets there around. And I think I'm still in shock and awe every time I'm driving and I look over and I see nobody driving the car. For the most part, sure, there's accidents and challenges, but it seems to be a lot less than if there was a driver in there. And so if you can have driverless cars on the street, that, you you bring up a great point that there's a challenge that has to be solved based on, I think, what'd you call it? The silver tsunami of the baby
silver
boomers
tsunami.
over 80. And so that's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, I don't know which way it will go, but yes, I've been in those Waymo cars. I felt more safe then than with some of the Uber drivers I've had.
Yes.
But it also, like, when you look at those cars, you also realize how much technology, I mean, they have LiDAR all over the place. And so how much technology goes into them. And then there's still human oversight that is in a control room someplace else that's looking there and being able to help at any moment. So there's still lots of people involved, and the amount of technology and the cost of that technology is still a barrier for a lot of the things we do.
Yeah. No, fair point. Fair point. So, Wendy, if you were advising another engineering leader in a similar, highly regulated, complex industry, what would you tell them to prioritize first?
I think they have to prioritize leaning into how they work and leveraging AI in any way possible, because it only takes a day or two to get behind the curve. So I think you got to stay ahead of that curve and figure out how you're going to use it to make you and your teams better versus letting someone else figure that out and then you aren't needed anymore.
Wendy, thank you so much for getting Uncensored with us today. I always love having female engineering leaders who have defied all odds in the male-dominated industry. I love your passion and expertise on how you've talked about AI and engineering and on the product side. You're truly a leader to watch with some great things in the industry. Any final thoughts for tech leaders out there trying to build, scale, or even just survive in these interesting times?
My only thoughts are lean into it, but make sure you understand the human part and don't ignore the human part and the fact that there's some really strong feelings that go through all these engineers' heads and help them along on that journey.
Great advice. Wendy, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatafy Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.